Hi, my name's Jenny, and my goal is to make a feature film with AI. And I'm back. I went to an amazing film festival this weekend with the short film that I shot in real life last year. And it's up for a prize. I still don't know if we've won the prize or not, but it was really fun. We did 2 screenings of the film. It was like one of 10 short films selected in competition. And I'm exhausted. I didn't realize that. Like the whole thing is just like, it's amazing to be there, but it's really tiring. I'm glad to be home actually. I had a really great time with some great people. I met some very interesting people as well. Made some really great connections. I'm back. I'm back at it. So I was back on Monday. So yesterday and today, I've just been getting into sound design, and I'm really glad that I can basically start talking about something new that I haven't sort of talked about doing yet. So I'm going to talk a little bit about sound design. So far, what I've done today and yesterday is just basically some of the cleanup and like going through the entire thing. I went through the entire film, just looking for issues, looking for problems to fix, and then obviously highlighted those issues, wrote down some notes about how I'm going to fix it, and I'll do those fixes tomorrow. But you know what? Because of Seed Dance and the way that I sort of mostly prompted it, there's not that much cleanup to do. There's some tiny bits of ADR where basically Seed Dance has forgotten that my characters are supposed to be Scousers, but not very much. Like the amount of notes that I've got are way, way less than the like visual fixes. So I'm relieved about that, because my hope is that I can get all of the sound design done in the next few days and then finish this bad boy up and get it out. So I guess the thing to say about sound design is I'm going for something really simple, not just because obviously, I'd like to be finished with this film before the end of the year, but also, I just prefer it. And I think it's a running theme in a lot of these videos for anybody who's, torturing their loved ones by watching the whole thing at once or something. Like restraint and subtlety, I think, is the key. And simple things, like doing simple things well, I find is far more impressive than doing sort of very extravagant things. And I find that especially with AI, obviously naturally Seed Dance wants to add loads of crap. Like it wants to add obviously music, which I told it the whole way through, no music, no soundtrack. It wants to add tense music in a scene that it has decided is tense, whether or not you think it's tense or not. It wants to add if you put in a whip pan, which I have at various points, not too often because I find them a bit tacky, but I have included 2 whip pans in the whole film. And both of those whip pans, Seed Dance has added the sort of woof to it, the literal whip, which I'm fine with, because in those instances it actually is okay. But it wants to do all of the sound design for you. And I really don't want that, because really what I was asking Seed Dance to do for me while I was generating is what you'd get on set, right? Which is I want to hear the dialogue. I don't want any music. And I want diegetic sound, right? So I want just the sound of the room and the action that's happening in a naturalistic way, so that I can cut scenes together using different generations and different takes. And obviously, so I've been going through the last 2 days, tidying things up a little bit for starters, and also just making sure that ironically, while I'm doing the vlog about sound, my microphone has just died, so we'll be using my camera's mic. Anyway, nonetheless, I've been doing a lot of just transitions, making sure that the overlaps and the kind of Yeah, doing a few, I guess they're like L cuts and J cuts, which is like, obviously, for those who don't know, like where the sound of a next scene starts slightly before the scene does. And that usually helps the film have a bit more momentum, and also just like, yeah, so that your scenes don't just feel like they're like sort of, too individualistic, that they're actually like part of a cohesive whole, right? And it's also just really good for like signaling what's coming next. You don't always do it, because sometimes you actually want that abrupt start if it's like a scene that's supposed to be a surprise, or something that's supposed to juxtaposition to the scene that you just came from. Say you're in a really noisy scene and the next scene is like crazy quiet. You might want to highlight that juxtaposition by not doing L and J cuts, which kind of means they overlap with the sound, but just doing like a straight cut. So I've been going through, tidying things up, doing some cleanup, making some notes about a little bit of ADR that I have to do tomorrow, and also just areas that I need to fix. But yeah, as I say, I'm fairly pleased. Like I said, I just shot this short last year, and actually the amount of sound design I had to do on that short that was only 15 minutes is a lot more than I'm having to do, I think, on this feature. So I'm very pleased with that. And obviously a lot of that is because Seed Dance does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. But I really thought I would have to do a lot more design, actually. But I think just to talk about sound design, like obviously this is just my personal preference, and I'm certainly not an expert, and I'm not a sound designer. But for example, for the short film that I did in real life, like I found the sound beds myself, right? So the sound beds are basically, even though Seed Dance gives you, say, the tone of a bedroom, right? In order that you can kind of cut overlapping dialogue and things, you want room sound, right? Like a room tone. And obviously on set, you'll get a wild track or a buzz track, so that you've got something to layer in as what you call like a sound bed layer, that just kind of make sure all of the rest of the action and dialogue rests on the same background, basically. And sounds like it's in the same location. Because sometimes Seed Dance can pump out slightly different room tone. And even on a film set, right, even if you're filming in the same location, say you break for lunch and you come back, suddenly the sound of the room for some reason sounds completely different, even though you haven't moved. Different times of day sound different. Night sounds different to daytime. And just, yeah, so you're trying to just get the soundscapes that, for me, I'm going for a very naturalistic, simple, just naturalism, really, because a lot of my film is already kind of shot a bit like a documentary. Obviously, it's not a documentary and no one's going to be thinking that it is, but I'm already using a lot of documentary conventions, and really what I prefer as a filmmaker, and it won't be everybody's cup of tea, but like, I prefer simple sound design. In fact, the short that I did just now, I did all of the music. I found all the music and the kind of the sound beds that I wanted. And I didn't do any like design on it. But when I handed it over to a sound designer, I found that like, yeah, he's a really great sound designer, but he wanted to like do too much. It's like a famous line, actually. It's one of my favorite lines from Kim Deal, the bassist of the Pixies. You know, people asked her why her bass playing was so sort of monotonous and simple and sort of childlike. And she said, well, you know, most bass players, they want to get involved, you know, and I find that that's definitely the case with Seed Dance and also with some professionals. You know, it's like, I guess people really want to put their mark and their spin on things sometime. And actually, I think the mark of somebody who's really like a very, very top professional is their ability to just deliver what the project needs, what the director needs, and what's in service of the story that you're trying to tell, whether that's a cinematographer or a sound designer or a musician or something. Yeah, like, so for me, I don't want all of that kind of, I don't want too much design on the sound. I want it to sound just very naturalistic and let the story be front and center, let the characters be front and center. Normally, I would maybe highlight a few things, like with a few accents here and there. But I've actually managed to do that with some of the music tracks that I already created using Suno, right? So maybe I haven't used a whole track, for example, like maybe one of the songs that I really liked, like I haven't used it as like a whole music track, but I'll use the intro if it's kind of spooky or kind of like childlike or signals mischief or something. Like I'll use the beginning of a track and just kind of like weave it into the sound design. And then sometimes what I've done is I'll just kind of be a bit cheeky. So I'll start the song just because I like the intro and it gives the right vibe for that particular moment. Like say a character has an idea and the music is very like, oh, I've had an idea. But then we cut to the next scene. And what I've done quite a few times is actually just put the music down really low and make it sound like it's coming from a radio. Right. So like, obviously, especially in the 1960s, people would have had the radio on all the time. People didn't wear headphones. They didn't do things like that. So yeah, I've like cheekily, whether it's in the car or the kitchen or the office, I've been able to like, yeah, start some songs where I just want a bit of the vibe of the intro and then cut it way down and just have it very, very, almost inaudible in the background, clearly coming from a radio. And that's, you know, that really sort of helps, yeah, just create some cohesion between scenes and like lead an audience from one scene to another. And I've done that a few times. Like with anything, you want to make sure that you're not doing the same thing constantly. And look, I'll admit that perhaps I've got too many music drops in my film. Again, I do think, just my personal opinion, but I do think maybe the mark of a more mature filmmaker is not doing so many like music drops, although they are really cool. And I think as directors that I really admire, like David Fincher, Quentin Tarantino, people like that, as they've gotten sort of older or they're, I guess, maturing in their careers, you see that they do fewer and fewer of these sort of, yeah, I guess like music drops in the film, whereas like that was like a huge staple of their early work. And I think, yeah, as filmmakers maybe get more films under their belts, they do, I think, become more just understated with things. Because when you start out, you're trying to get attention, right? So you're trying to be cool. You're trying to show how much verve and kind of, attitude you've got as a filmmaker. You want to make sure your voice is distinct and stuff like that. I think as filmmakers actually progress, once they've sort of got an established career, they tend to do a lot less of that sort of showy stuff. And so, yeah, if there's one thing that I think maybe my film has too much of, there's a few too many music drops. And yeah, and a lot of that is because I don't want to do too much sound design, not just because I'm lazy, but because I don't actually like, I don't actually like a lot of sound design. I think that, yeah, there's a lot of dialogue in my film already. So there's already a lot to sort of listen to. And I just want very simple sort of, locations and palettes. And where I will do some sound design, it will be very, very subtle and simple. One of the tricks I sort of learned, while I was doing the sound design initially on my short film, is that I think what I really like, and it's just a preference, rather than like overloading a scene with like all of the sounds that you can think of, like if you go scene by scene and like, you could have, if my character's walking on the docks, right, in the Merseyside docks, let's say it's raining. Let's say you can hear the water on the docks. You'll be able to hear seagulls. You'll be able to hear her footsteps. Maybe you can hear a car in the distance. Like these kinds of things, maybe a ship's coming in or a foghorn. But like, it just makes a scene so crowded, right? And what I found really helps is if you focus and isolate one sound, and that sound should be something that creatively like carries meaning for the character in that moment. So, for example, where a character's feeling overwhelmed with emotion, well, the sound of a train going by or the sound of the waves crashing into the docks might be like signal just this kind of like emotion, feeling, and nostalgia. Whereas, you know, maybe a foghorn doesn't do that. But if you're trying to signal that the character's like being woken up, for example, like maybe they've had an epiphany, then maybe a foghorn would be perfect for that, because it's like, wake up, you know. I don't know. But like, yeah, I think that basically what I've found is by isolating one particular sound per scene, and sometimes not even that. Sometimes if there's a lot of dialogue or action, then I just let that kind of do its own thing. But where I'm trying to build atmosphere or mood and help an audience to feel and connect to the character, yeah, I might have the sound of the rain higher up in the mix, or I might just focus. For example, one night my character's walking alone at night, and so I've sort of pulled up in the mix like the sound of the footsteps walking, and kind of that echoey, you know, when you're walking on your own at night, you know, just your own footsteps can be really scary. Things like that, that just highlight, even though my character's becoming this sort of, you know, crime boss or whatever, that she's still vulnerable, right? Because she's walking alone at night as a woman, and that makes you vulnerable, right? Whether you like it or not. So yeah, these are the kinds of things that I'm thinking about with sound design. Yeah, my general sort of rule for sound design, I think as I'm like improving as a filmmaker and I make more films, I gain more confidence in my decisions. I noticed sort of when I was making commercials and stuff that every project I would do, I would at some point defer what I thought to like somebody else's expertise. And obviously a lot of times that's going to be correct, but there would be some decisions, you know, along the way in my career that I would like, make creative decisions, and I'd almost outsource the decision to somebody because I didn't have the confidence. And always when I look back, it was those gut decisions that I kind of knew I wanted something else, but I didn't say, I deferred to somebody else. As I've sort of progressed in my career, I've learned to just lean into like what I actually really like as my taste, and like, kind of live with it, good or bad, and like perfect or imperfect, right? Like just go with that. And so, sound design is one of those things. I don't want to overdo it. I think especially one of the things that can really signal that you're an amateur is really hammy sound design, really over the top sound design. And I think one of the things that can be quite sloppy with AI is too much sound design. And just again, it's like less is more, like do subtle, simple, restrained things well. And I think that's actually what makes something just more enjoyable for an audience. It's the same principle across most of the disciplines. And obviously I haven't necessarily stuck to it with my music drops. Like I say, I've sort of gone a bit over the top maybe there, but I think with everything else, I've tried to just keep it restrained and tried to keep it subtle where possible, although some scenes are a little bit extra. But I think that basically, my rule of thumb now, because with AI, people know you can do anything and everything all at once if you really want to. And the key is what you don't do, right? And I definitely think like try not to do like over the top, overproduced, and trying too hard stuff. Because that just signals like, I don't know, it's like when somebody's dressed over the top, it's almost signaling insecurity, right? There's like a lack of confidence there, that somebody feels like they need to yeah, need to try too hard or something, you know? And I think that, yeah, actually simple and elegant is maybe the way to do it for me anyway, because I think that, yeah, like just let it be what it is. Nobody's going to watch my film and think it, you know, it was made by Hollywood. But that's not the point. It's an indie film made by one lady in her bedroom. And so let it be what it is. And I'm not going to feel the need to sort of, yeah, go over the top. I think that, yeah, you can have a quiet confidence even in your mistakes or even in your imperfections. Like just there's a certain, yeah, quiet confidence in the understatement of going, no, this is what it is. I'm going to let it be what it is. And I'm not going to try and make it something that it's not. So I've gone for just a very simple sound design and honestly simple everything. There are literally there are no like especially sort of complicated shots in my cinematography. I don't really have one. I have some wides that I think look really pretty, but like, yeah, almost everything about the film hopefully carries some level of understatement. And I think that that's going to be something that, yeah, in the future, I think that makes it not sloppy, you know? And where it is sloppy, quite honestly, there are some scenes that I think, little bit sloppy there. It's because the acting was too over the top with the characters, or because the action was just too, again, over the top. And yeah, anything that doesn't feel sort of natural, a lot of that is just about, trying to make a film that is like too big for its boots, right? And I think that, yeah, I'm learning. I saw some amazing films at this film festival. And one of my favorite ones that I saw that was sort of in competition with mine, the director had like basically like just shot something in one room or one location, and like the simplicity of what she'd done just really like high, like, and also the location was basically almost all sort of white and blue, like it was a hospice. So there was like no, there was barely any production design. And what was there was like quite sort of bland colors, but it worked so well. It was like these new, like muted color palettes and stuff. And because there was so much less going on and she didn't try and do any crazy camera work or anything, it was all very still. It really highlighted the performances, which were excellent, and also like the dialogue, which was like really funny, and the relationships between these characters. And yeah, it really just reminds me that, yeah, like do like less is more, right? Like the less that you try and throw at the edit and the less that you try and throw at Seed Dance, I think the more understated you can make things, the more that actually highlights what you are trying to do, like with the film and trying to say to an audience, right? And like, yeah, like anything that really like one of the things that kind of gets annoying a bit with like sort of AI is you'll constantly kind of see people being like, they'll throw out like a 15-second or 30-second shot or scene that they did. And, you know, we've probably all done it where it's like, oh, wow, look at this crazy shot. And it's like someone will say like Hollywood is cooked. But like, no, bro, like Hollywood is not cooked because of that. Like, because the thing is like, you've just shown me like some crazy CGI action, like, I don't know, thing that's happened. But like, it's like when someone first discovers like, After Effects or something, and they put like every After Effect on everything. And it's like, yeah, like you don't have to do as much. And actually, I think when filmmakers really mature, they do less, right? And that's evidenced in the films of, yeah, some of my favorite filmmakers. Like, if you look at sort of, yeah, David Fincher's Fight Club, which is one of my favorite films, it's very busy, right? And that fits with the tone of the movie and everything. But if you compare that to like Gone Girl or The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo or Killer and stuff like that, that's more recent, these films are much slower. They're much quieter. They're much more understated. And like the colors are much more muted. The cinematography is a lot more subtle. And I think that ultimately any element, like somebody like Roger Deakins might say with cinematography, any element that stands out to an audience where an audience is going, oh, wow, look at that shot. That shot's amazing. Well, then you've lost the audience from the story, right? So yeah, my general rule of thumb is, yes, there are loads of things that could be like really flary and like you could show off with a bunch of things. But I always laugh when I see these clips on socials that are like Hollywood is cooked, because it's always something really showy. And the actual thing is that I think like Hollywood won't be cooked by things like that. It will be more cooked if like there's actually like more taste and like discernment going into the output of what we're doing with AI, hopefully. And like, yeah, less is more. Or as Dieter Rams, his design philosophy was like less but better, right? So it's like do less but do what you are doing at a like better level, rather than like stuff that's going to be really show off. Yeah, so that's it really. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing sound design. Hopefully, I'm hoping I can finish off sound design either tomorrow or the next day. And then I'll move on to upscaling, grade, and finishing. So yeah, super exciting. Thank you for watching, liking, subscribing. Oh, and don't forget to go and listen to my 1960s soundtrack, which is on my YouTube. I'll link it to the video below on socials. Because I'm trying to get my watch hours up so that I can get monetized on my YouTube. So go and listen to some 1960s music. And yeah, I will see you soon.